All right, sit down, take a breath, and let me walk you through what just happened, because if you blinked, you probably missed half of it. Borussia Dortmund versus Barcelona, Champions League quarterfinal second leg. Scoreline 3-1 to Dortmund on the night, but it wasn't enough. Aggregate says 5-3 to Barcelona, and that's the only number that counts. Now, let's be clear. This match was chaos. Gorgeous, pulse-quickening, nail-munching chaos. Dortmund didn't just come to play. They came swinging a sledgehammer at the walls of Barca's smug little semi-final castle. And for a good 70 minutes, you'd be forgiven for thinking they might just break through. The first half? Total yellow wall fever dream. Dortmund came out snarling. The pressing, the pace, the confidence, they didn't look like a team down 4-0. They looked like a team possessed. Serhou Guirassy, oh boy, what a night for him. Early penalty? Slotted. Made it 1-0 and set the tone. But that wasn't nearly enough for him, was it? The signal Iduna was vibrating. Dortmund were slicing Barcelona to pieces. Adeyemi, Svensson, Bayer, everyone had to go. Szczesny, somehow the last line of resistance for a club that thought they'd be coasting to the next round, was immediately overworked. He wasn't just sweating, he was drowning. And then Guirassy did it again. And then again. Hat-trick. Man on a mission. He bullied Barcelona's backline so badly they should file a report. And yet still, not enough. Because here's the thing, as brilliant as Dortmund were, they had a problem. It was Barcelona, and it was fate. And it was a deeply stupid own goal from Bensebaini that, in hindsight, probably killed the tie dead. Just when the Black-Yellows had clawed it back to 4-2 on aggregate and had the crowd believing again, the universe threw on a clown nose and said, not today. Lopez cuts it back, Bensebaini tries to clear, and instead sticks it right past his own keeper. That one hurt. Physically, like biting tinfoil. You could feel the air go out of the stadium for a second. That moment told you this wasn't going to be the Miracle in Munich Part 2, or 3, or whichever sequel we're on. But still, Dortmund didn't back down. Guirassy gets his hat trick after another mess at the back. Duranville breaks ankles on the right, whips in a cross, and Araujo's clearance is a gift-wrapped assist. Boom. 3-1. Back within 2. Westfalenstadion goes full madness mode. They kept swinging, kept pressing. Brandt even put the ball in the net for what would have been the fourth, but the offside flag came up faster than your hopes falling apart in the group chat. It was a beautiful move. But just a hair off. A literal shoulder's worth of heartbreak. Barcelona? Look, they won the tie. That's the nice version. The real version? They got pantsed in this game. 0.49 by G. Total passengers. De Jong, Rafinha, Gavi. All MIA. Lewandowski chasing shadows like he was trying to get revenge on his ex-club, but accidentally ghosted himself. They scored once, thanks to Dortmund. It's like they got to the stadium, clocked in for 20 minutes, and then went on a lunch break that lasted the rest of the match. This was not a professional performance. This was survival. Flick's substitutions weren't tactical so much as damage control. Yamal off, Garcia on. Defensive mode activated. Just try not to let this collapse turn into a meme. The irony? Dortmund showed the world how to beat this Barcelona side. High press, aggressive wing play, vertical passes, everything Flick doesn't want to deal with. PSG are watching this and taking notes with a highlighter and a smirk. Dortmund exit the competition, but they leave with their heads high and their dignity even higher. They battered Barca. Just not for long enough. It's the kind of night that makes you dream and scream and stare at the ceiling later, wondering if one more chance could have made the impossible possible. So yeah, Barcelona advance. Guirassy walks off with the match ball. And football, once again, reminds us it doesn't care about scripts. Only drama. And this one had plenty. Barcelona and Borussia Dortmund. Two clubs separated by history, philosophy, and, as of tonight, barely enough footballing luck to fill a pint glass. But after this roller coaster of a quarterfinal, you'd be hard-pressed to say they don't belong in the same conversation. Just for wildly different reasons. Let's talk about Barcelona first, or rather, let's unpack whatever that was. On paper, Barcelona go through. They survive, they progress, semifinals, job done. But if you only look at the scoreline, you're missing the part where they got run over by a black and yellow freight train and somehow crawled out the other side with their limbs technically intact. This was a team that looked composed, confident, maybe even a little too smug after that 4-0 first leg clinic. Rafinha, Lewandowski, Yamal all looked like they were ready to go on cruise control. Hansi Flick probably told them before the match, control the tempo, keep the ball, frustrate them. But what actually happened? They got launched into orbit by Dortmund's intensity and spent the night trying to remember how to breathe. Barcelona's midfield was invisible for long stretches. De Jong looked like he was trying to water a lawn in a hurricane. Gavi tried to bring some bite but got outmuscled. Pedri came on and added some calm, but by then it was more about surviving the storm than playing football. And Rafinha, who had been electric all season, was more static than a broken antenna. Lewandowski? Let's just say the man's 100th goal in a Barca shirt will have to wait. He barely got a sniff against a defense that knew all his tricks from back in the Bundesliga days. At one point, he looked more likely to pull a hamstring than pull a goal out of nowhere. The defense, too, was just there. Koundé had a rough time. Araujo's clearance that led to Guirassy's third was something you'd expect from a panicked substitute in a preseason friendly, not your captain in a Champions League quarterfinal. Szczesny, of all people, was the only one who didn't fold completely under pressure, and he still gave away the opening penalty. So yes, they move on. But this wasn't a statement. This was a warning. PSG, their next opponents, will be licking their lips. Now Dortmund. If there were ever a case study in going out with pride, this is it. Dortmund didn't just play well, they played the best game of their European season. And they needed to. Down 4-0 on aggregate, most teams sulk. Niko Kovac said no thanks and handed the keys to chaos. Guirassy was unstoppable. Not in a metaphorical, he's playing well way. In a literal, someone stop this man please way. 3 goals, movement that left Barca defenders guessing and guessing wrong, and the kind of ruthless finishing you dream about. He wasn't just good, he was possessed. Adeyemi, Svensson, Bayer, they were all electric. Every one of them ran like the ball owed them money. Couto bombed down the flank like his boots were on fire. Bensebaini, yes, scored a ridiculous own goal, but up until then he was a standout, defending, surging forward, playing with intent. And Pascal Gross? My word. The man was everywhere, pressing, passing, setting tempo, creating chance after chance. This wasn't the Pascal Gross who played a decade of mid-table Premier League ball. This was the man orchestrating an attempted miracle on a Tuesday night in Dortmund. Kobel? Great saves. Anton? Solid. Even Brandt came off the bench and nearly delivered a match-flipping assist. This wasn't just a performance. This was a full-throttle assault on the idea of giving up. Sure, they didn't do enough over 2 legs. But what they did do was rip apart the narrative that Barcelona are untouchable right now. Dortmund looked like a team you wouldn't want to play in the semis. It's just a shame they didn't give themselves a little more margin after the first leg, because this second one was sublime. So here we are. Barcelona go on. But they limp into the semifinals with Guirassy's shadow on their backs and Duranville's cross still haunting their dreams. Meanwhile, Dortmund bow out, not as failures but as folk heroes of the almost. Glorious, defiant, chaotic, almost. And if there's any justice left in football, someone, somewhere will give this Dortmund side another shot next season. Because they're not done. Not even close.